This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett, and in this episode, sponsored by 83, we're checking out some of the weapons of a Cold War gone hot. So I was able to launch grenades very vertically.
Yeah, wow. I thought, why am I looking at the gas tube of this AK?
The number of seconds it takes for that grenade to land.
That's kind of hilarious. So I can kind of replicate what you've done there, and I guess it's still at a slight angle.
I can't recall another game that's done that.
No, I hadn't even thought about it on the real weapon, if I'm honest. It's not something that certainly isn't done to my knowledge in Western forces.
83 is a 40v40 squad-based, objective-focused, online tactical first-person shooter set in a Cold War gone hot scenario. It features 40v40 large-scale battles with infantry, vehicles, tanks, and fire missions, objective-focused squad-based team gameplay, and era-authentic weapons and equipment with realistic handling and lethality. 83 is the spiritual successor to Rising Storm 2 Vietnam and has just launched into early access, and you can join in on the action right now by using our link in the description or pinned comment below. But without further ado, it's over to Jonathan.
Oh, okay, well, right, pause, because we've already got some stuff to say. My first impression is the coloration and texturing, I guess. So the typical M16 A1 has that grey anodized. I've been saying phosphate for so long. You can't phosphate aluminium. It's anodized. The contrast of the black polymer furniture with the grey receiver. We talk about it being the black rifle, but actually for a very long time, well into the M16 A1 era, the receivers came from cold grey, and they've nailed that grey. There's also the internal seam on the carry handle there that you can see, and the top of the receiver. As a result of the forging process, there is a visible seam there. Lots of things don't get that. I mean, they vary a lot, those seams, as to how much they're cleaned up. If I'm being super nitpicky, I might suggest that the seam as in the front curvature of the carry handle is a bit too wide and like consistently wide. It's almost like it's a deliberate feature rather than just an artifact of the manufacturing process, if that makes sense. But they all vary. Some of them have a very minimal seam visible. I mean, seam's probably the wrong word to use for it, but it's almost like it's flashing is what it is from the forging process. I think that would be the correct term. Rear sight. Many complaints I've had in the past about them being proud of the protectors, which is silly, and perhaps the actual aperture, well, not perhaps, mainly the aperture being too huge. Well, actually, that looks pretty bang on, and I'll be interested to see how it looks in the aiming.
So they actually do something really interesting when it comes to the aperture between weapon at low ready and aiming down sights, but I'll let you check that out when we get to it.
Okay, so we've got some tremendous detail here. There is ignore the grenade launcher. It's upside down, but there's a tiny little line on the forging there. That's replicated on screen. However, this lump here, and this is perhaps not the best model to show you, especially not upside down, but the shape of that external lump, it allows a gap for the cam pin to rotate into when the thing is unlocking, or locking, I should say, and out of when it's unlocking. That shape is a bit too low. It needs to be more the top edge should be more perpendicular, basically bang on perpendicular. You should get the shelf of the carry handle, and then a second mini shelf of that protuberance on the receiver there. That's the insane level of detail to which I'm looking here. Good thumb actuation of the bolt catch there. Maybe a bit more authority would be useful, but works fine. Okay. So when you aim, the aperture actually opens up.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess that's a good workaround. Green tip, M855. It appears in the magazine. Don't remember when M855 came in. This might be a little early for that. Sound effects sound very good. The kind of physicality of the movement of the rifle, also good. I like the slight shine on those triangular handguards.
So something I'll mention at the as we are at the top of the episode, it's very hard to sort of differentiate who's friend or foe. You have to either go by uniform, or sometimes you'll get a little blue icon above a friendly, but that depends on range and visibility. One really interesting thing that helped me determine if it was an enemy or a friendly player is when the enemy fired, or when the person I was looking at fired, the muzzle flash was so different I could tell if it was an AK-74
Interesting.
or an M16. There were a couple of moments where I saw the sort of horizontal muzzle flash from the AK-74 muzzle brake, and I knew it was an enemy, so I opened fire. Similarly, when I was playing as the Pact forces, I could see the star shape, so I knew it was NATO that was in front of me, and opened fire.
Interesting. I've heard many stories of, well, not just stories, but the distinctive report of an AK versus an M16. I guess less so when it comes to 5.45. They're going to be more similar, but I guess you would learn to tell the difference. But yeah, it kind of makes sense you'd be able to spot them from the muzzle flash. I've never heard anyone, read of anyone saying, and of course we recognise them from their muzzle flashes. So it's interesting that's occurred for you. Oh, bayonet fitted there, M7 bayonet. Certainly in period, absolutely expected that you might fit a bayonet for close combat. I mean, in the intervening years, less so all the time, really, to the point where the US Army doesn't issue them anymore. It hasn't for 10 plus years.
You might have been able to see there in the church when they were firing back at me, that horizontal muzzle flash of the 74.
Yeah, now in theory, the report of a 74, and I've not heard one fired out in the open, but that muzzle brake gives a ton of flash, probably quite distinctive flash, so you're not always going to be able to see it in daylight, but in fact, mostly you won't really see it in daylight. It ought to be possible to tell the difference between the reports as well.
Yeah, you could definitely hear it, the soundscape. Like if you can tell from one direction what weapon is being fired.
Nice to see the bayonet being fitted in camera, as it were. Oh, nasty.
Yeah, this is what happens when you don't check if there's an enemy spawn behind you.
I mean, I will say, much like firing a single shot into an enemy might not stop them from being able to fight back, a single thrust from a bayonet may not cause them to stop fighting back. Whereas in games, they are pretty much treated as a one-hit kill.
If you melee without a bayonet fitted, you sort of just muzzle strike them. That takes a good fuse. I accidentally did that. I forgot to fit the bayonet, and this guy just turned around and laid me out.
Yeah, I don't think muzzle strikes were taught until quite recently as a sort of emergency close quarter fighting technique, because I guess you were expected to have a bayonet fitted if you were going to be doing that back in the day. I will say, I'm a big fan of the original AR-15, M16, M16 A1. As the years go by, I'm increasingly less of a fan of the A2 for various reasons. They could easily have gone with the A2. Well, I guess 83 is when they start to roll out realistically to the US Army. They could have just called it 85 or something and gone with M16 A2s. But depending on the unit you're in, you would still have had A1s even toward the Gulf War. There were still, certainly plenty of National Guard units still using A1s. I'm really glad they stuck with the A1. It's actually more appropriate for the year they've chosen, and it's just a cooler rifle. It's a lighter rifle, got a better trigger. It's closer to what Eugene Stoner intended. Okay, interesting. So we're on the grenade launcher version now. This is a weird quirk. So they've got the rear sight folded down out the way to then use the flip up grenade sight ladder there. Just visible back here. It's a little awkward to show you in any detail. I've nearly whacked my camera there. But you don't need to do that because these apertures are all way above the rifle bore axis, because you're shooting at an angle. Morning angle.
Morning angle.
You don't need to fold the sight out of the way. And the bigger problem is you can't fold the sight out of the way because it's two apertures. It's an L-shaped piece. So you flip the sight down, you get another sight with a slightly different shaped sized aperture. That's an outright minor mistake there. On the plus side, it lets us get a good view down that carry handle channel, and profile of that is kind of spot on, which is nice. And there's the hole for mounting the original optic, which was never regular US Army or Marine Corps issue. There was a British trials for a 3-power optic. You could get a 3.5, something like that. Traditional tubular optic. More used probably by civilians. Then they weren't super robust. They weren't great for knocking around in jungle, or in this case temperate zones. there's a reason why optics were not standard until later on for most people. Although by this point, the Austrian army is equipping with an integral optic on their rifles. The launcher itself, M203, of course, one of my favourite looks for the rifle growing up is with the replaced, you swap the whole handguard over to be able to mount the 203, and it just looks incredibly cool. And because the weapon itself is very lightweight, already adding, it's a heftier weapon, but it feels like for something weighing less probably still than an M14, you get something with 40mm grenade firepower as well as the 5.56 rounds. So 69-ish onwards, the 203, until very recently. I think there's probably still some in inventory, the being replaced by the 320. But looking good on here, and they've actually modelled that grenade sight pretty accurately. Ours is fitted with the clamp-on, I guess, more precise aim sight, which flicks out to the side and then adjusts like at its maximum to 400 meters, which means you are hilariously elevated, like realistically unable to shoulder it. You'd have to kind of cradle it in the crook of your arm and then sight kind of like this. 400 meters, which is its kind of maximum for making people reconsider their current activities.
Yeah, 250 was as high as I could range it with just the front ladder sight.
Yeah, that you might actually hit somebody. 150 is its point target distance in theory. Good sound, like the bloop.
Gotta reload!
You do carry less magazines for the rifle if you're the grenadier, but the number of grenades I got, I found more than made up for a couple less mags.
Looks good as well. I like the distant rumble of the explosion, like a flash, but not crazy flash, and the dust kicking up. I'm not sure that this is entirely realistic, but I do like the kind of pressure wave. You can see pressure waves in real life, I'm told. I've seen a couple of explosion demolition type demonstrations on one instance, but more than one, and I've not seen it. But I think it depends on atmospheric conditions, but it looks very cool in this, I have to say. Yep, so basically as you see there, press, slide, round in, close, and that's also cocked it. You've got a safety, intrude into the trigger guard, and then obviously repeat to eject the fired case. It feels quite naturalistic, like the weapon handling. Like it seems to, it doesn't sort of float, nor is it kind of rigidly in front of you like a bitmap on the screen. It's kind of, it moves in a sort of controlled manner, but still feels like it has some mass.
If you're near a sort of doorway or a window as well, or even like a rock or the ground in front of you, you'll rest your rifle on a nearby surface, so you'll be able to steady it against a windowsill or like a log or just another piece of scenery, which is good to encourage you to get to cover instead of just being in a bush or in a tower.
Yep. I'm liking that I have to really pay attention to catch the cases coming out. So they're looking realistic as well. Reloads, they're not doing John Wick, modern gun fu or like tactical trainer type stuff. They're not flicking mags out. They're not dropping mags to the deck. They're retaining magazines. Soldiers typically trained to retain their mags, partial or empty. Yes, in an emergency, you might let it drop to the floor, but...
And that is represented if you double tap R to reload in a very high pressure situation, the mag will drop to the floor and you won't be able to recover it. Whereas, as you point out, standard reloads, you'll keep them in your pocket so you can then return to a rally point or a base to refill those mags and get back in the action.
Good. Yeah, I'm a fan of that. From what I've seen of other characters holding weapons, they are sticking pretty closely to period handling as well. So they're not kind of early 2000s squared up. They're not 2010 C-clamping. They're holding it in the sort of way that the manual might depict. And they hopefully have been referencing period training. Oh dear. You've got red on you.
Shamefully, that was my own grenade as well.
Yeah.
So this isn't gameplay, but these are the weapon models that they've turned into these really highly detailed social clips.
Yeah.
And they offer a really nice look at the weapon, so I thought I'd include a couple of those here and there as well.
I am subscribed. I am seeing these beauty reels, as it were, and liking what I've been seeing. The damage to the laminate handguard is nice, although weirdly specific on the raised portion there on the 74, but plausible. I shudder to think how many hours it's taken to create these. Oh, I like the date with the Tula star and the date of 83. It's a nice Easter egg. Lots of rivets, spot welds, all looking correct. Even the rounds, you've got the red lacquer around the neck of the cartridges. Yeah, again, like the M16, sounds like the right rate of fire, sounds like the right kind of report. Another bayonet, that's good. Right-handed reload, correct for the time period.
I think it's an easy trope to avoid that they don't go for the underhanded left-hand reload. I think they've gotten that from a manual of arms.
Oh, sight adjustment. Nice. That's nice to see, albeit it's happening without being touched. Be a real icing on the cake if the hand came in and did it, but to actually see the sight being adjusted is a rarity. So we'll put ours back on the battle sight. P setting. This is a Bulgarian AK-74. Picked up instead of a Russian because, well, A, it's basically identical, but has the GP25 grenade launcher already fitted to it, so I didn't have to go scavenging. Because, as I've already seen from the video, we do have a GP25 option for this. I guess the immediate giveaways on this are the colour of the pistol grip and the magazine, which are not correct for Russian. So I've got a less correct gun, perhaps, than the gun in the game. I don't know if I'm dreaming it, and you can probably answer this as having played it. This looks like it's more controllable than the M16.
It did feel more controllable, yeah.
Good. Because it ought to be.
If only slightly, but it was more controllable, especially on full auto.
Well, that's really what I mean more than anything else, because like there's not much to choose between them on semi really. But having fired automatic from both, this thing, yeah, it'll deafen your mates and blow their hats off, but it really works. People talk about this thing's got no recoil, and it visibly does have recoil. Well, I guess this still does, but it's so minimal with that brake. You can see why with that doctrine of burst fire, like manually controlled burst firing from the shoulder on the advance in a Third World War scenario across, in Europe, debussing from vehicles and then advancing. You can absolutely see why you'd want that brake on there. And then from there, of course, they looked at the AN-94 to try and automate that process, and it kind of didn't really work. But yeah, it's good if the game it really doesn't look like it's moving much at all. And it is one of the more controllable. And before the mass aftermarket availability of muzzle devices for ARs and things, this was one of the only games in town for like not having to put thousands of rounds to train yourself up to be able to shoot bursts automatically accurately from the shoulder. And even then, it's one thing to lock in and anticipate and not embarrass yourself shooting a target at close range like I sometimes do. It's another thing to be moving in combat and still maintain 2 to 3 shots on your target. In theory, you kind of want the break for that.
Really nice effect on the light and texture when you get the weapon wet as well.
I was just about to say, that's really like a fine spray. Like Battlefield does it well, but a lot of games it's just like this consistently large drops of whether it's water, blood, whatever. That looks like it's coming from the environment and not just appearing on the gun. So there's our GP25. I guess also, yeah, difference on this one with the Bulgarian has got solid wood on it. It's not the classic Soviet laminate, which you see really well from this first-person view. Muzzle loading, of course, the GP25. That is how it's loaded, and then you're just left with a... you have an ejection system if you decide to unload it, but it's a caseless grenade launching system. That's interesting.
So I was able to launch grenades very vertically.
Yeah. Wow. I thought, why am I looking at the gas tube of this AK?
And the number of seconds it takes for that grenade to land.
That's kind of hilarious. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the manual says offhand, but we can, in fact, adjust almost to perpendicular. So I can kind of replicate what you've done there. And I guess it's still at a slight angle, and that is... Oh. That's like a volley fire setting, essentially.
But it took a full 15 seconds for that grenade to land.
Yeah, this is poor man's mortar. It's a separate indicated setting on the sight. So you go from 100 to 400 meters, and then there's a big gap, and then you've got your in red, which kind of implies you need to be thinking about this before you do it. Essentially a indirect fire mode, full on.
I can't recall another game that's done that.
No, I hadn't even thought about it on the real weapon, if I'm honest. It's not something that certainly isn't done to my knowledge in Western forces. I'll have to dig out the manual and my Google Lens and see what they say about volley fire of grenades.
I did try to make useful application of it as well. Like if an objective was 200 meters away, I'd start just launching some. Whether that was effective or not, I couldn't see the target. I couldn't see where they were landing, so it was intended to be helpful, but whether or not it was,
I guess you could do map predicted. That's yeah. I mean, you'd have to think. I assume the way that's meant to be done is the traditional rifle grenade butt in the ground, because you wouldn't be holding it in front of you like this. Doink. Whereas you can, the point target and normal distance firing, you do from the shoulder with this and with the 203. So really, you ought to be kneeling, crouching for that setting. But yeah, not something I've given any thought to, funnily enough. But I guess if you haven't got a platoon level or company level AGS-17 automatic grenade launcher, that's what you do. Or a infantry mortar, I guess. But these things are significantly less powerful than even a 51mm mortar, so it's a bit of a thoughts and prayers kind of attack method. Or defense, actually. It might be useful in a hasty defense if you know they're coming and you want to tie them up while you break contact or whatever. Food for thought. And interesting that you found it somewhat useful.
There's a statue in this map, and 3 out of 5 times I accidentally shot it because I thought it was a guy.
Really?
It's just a statue there with a gun, because this game is quite intense.
Yeah.
I've put a couple of rounds into that statue.
No, it's good. Plenty of M203s in games, but rarely do you see a GP25. Our old favourite, the MP5. Now, I was planning to swap over some butt stocks here, but I'm not sure it's worth it. So here we have a vintage MP5 SD A2 with the original pattern suppressor, and it's so vintage it's got the grey finish, which that looked like it did in the video, or a lighter tone anyway. But yeah, it's a very dark grey finish on the early HK MP5, and of course the solid stock. But never thought the solid stock makes much sense for the SD. Better to have the A3 stock that's on this. Comparably, actually even older. This one was made in 72. This one, 1977. A good year. Short mag on this one, but not really relevant. Sounds good. You do get there if you cast your mind back to when we fired that SD here. And how you definitely do get a pop from the muzzle. It's not just the noise of the action cycling. This sounds like they've been watching some videos and come up with a good compromise. It sounds super quiet, but still not just like a clack clack.
Is the lack of a slap correct?
Well, we've been here before, haven't we? I mean, I'm going to say yes, without having checked the Bundeswehr manual for the MP5 in a while, but I'm reliably informed by German contacts that if you slapped your G3, you would be in a lot of trouble. So the HK manual says slap it, the training manual and the scary man shouting at you say do not slap it. You flick it out of the notch, essentially. Or in fact, you pull it out and let it fly.
They just pull it back on this version.
Yeah, see, that is technically possible, but incorrect per the drills. And common sense, if I'm honest. So you can... I think we had a long exchange in the comments, but got this 15-round mag here. If that's full, even this, you can force that in with rounds in against the closed bolt, but it's not a good idea. It's better, it's more efficient. Lock it open, change magazines, and slap it. And also, player expectation. Come on, guys, they're going to want to slap the gun. Give the people what they want. But yeah, to be clear, you can run the bolt on a full mag. I guess if the mag and the gun are brand new, it might be difficult. And it isn't good for the mag to slam it in and force it into the locked position or the latched position against a closed bolt.
So it should be locked open first, regardless.
Should be locked open first. How you release that handle is up for debate. Although HK say slap. Especially with how lightly that's done. Like, that's like finger and thumb. Not quite pink in the air, but like, very, very easy. It's not that easy, as you can see from I mean, it's not actually that hard. This is quite old, so this has been thoroughly worn in, and I can fairly easily run it. But when you've got the pressure of an inserted magazine underneath, that's going to make it substantially harder. Yeah, but the gun looks good. Sounds good. Sights look good. Albeit these early guns don't have the sort of open notch. They only have apertures. So I'd have to look up whether MP5s had that rear sight drum available by this time frame. I'm almost certain they would have. It's just that this one's too early.
Because this is one of the weapons of the Special Forces class, it's quite common, if you're playing as Pact, to have a bunch of guys, in my experience at least, with MP5s sort of behind your lines. And
Really?
going through this environment with people shooting suppressed MP5s at you, no idea where you're getting shot from. It became like quite terrifying. It was like checking my corners, like crawling through bushes. Are they in here? Because you just could not tell where they're coming from.
Yeah. Well, that is, of course, the main purpose of such a weapon, is that the enemy doesn't know where you're shooting from, how far away you are, and if you're far enough away, that it's even a firearm. And in this case, you could be fairly close before they know that it isn't just ambient, like depending on the ambient sound levels, whether you're indoors, outdoors, all that kind of thing. To what extent they'd have been issued beyond Special Operations Forces, such to be able to have an effect like that you're describing, don't know, but who cares? If it could have happened, it goes in, especially with a multiplayer shooter. Having said the sights look good, so I haven't got one in front of me to double check, but that rear notch, the V notch, that front sight post is sitting above that notch. Now, when you're aiming through the aperture, your eye lines up the rings, the sight post is central, but with the V notch, the top of that wants to be level with the top of the sight, not sticking above it. So your head is slightly too high up there. Now, there are shooting techniques for submachine guns at the time where you are just looking over the gun, almost like a center hold in the chest, and you look over the gun and shoot where you're looking. That's for kicking down doors, counter-terrorist type stuff. It's not open field fighting kind of thing, but another minor thing. AKS-74U, which we have a few of, which we've shown you before. Don't have in front of me, but is looking good. More recoil, I would say, from this.
Yeah, it was harder to control.
Yeah, which is correct.
If you were playing as the anti-tank role, it was your weapon. If you were one of the tank crew, this is the weapon you get issued.
Yeah, again, which is correct. Like, it's invented and issued for that purpose. Whether Special Operations Forces find it useful later on, it's not particularly relevant to this setting and period. This is a tank crew weapon first and foremost. And because it has a muzzle booster, not a muzzle brake, it's going to be more of a handful. And in theory, not much use beyond 200 meters. I don't know how did you feel kind of hamstrung by it being shorter?
Yeah, I dared engage at range with this thing. It was a close quarters weapon to protect myself while I was taking shots at tanks. And even when I used the suppressed version, which we'll check out in a moment as well, as the Pact Special Forces, I was very aware that I did not have the range that my AK-74 did.
That was a really good illustration, actually, just then, when you were trying to make hits at I'm not sure what the distance was, but it was like middling distance, perhaps, and you didn't quite nail the guy, and then there was a guy about half that distance away, and you dropped him no problem. That shows you that it works as intended. Fitted with the suppressor, it's the UB, AKS-74 UB. I won't pronounce the word. More of a sort of special operations type configuration, sacrificing more length for a significantly quieter weapon. Not MP5 SD quiet by any means, though. And I think I can hear that. Sounds like a normal gun, but quieter, rather than sounding like an air rifle.
Because that sight is unique to this weapon. Well, it's one of the departures between the AKS-74U and this variant, right? Don't know what it's for, but looks interesting.
I'm trying to think at the moment if that's just the night sight. It's not a grenade sight. I think I've asked you this before about other games, but do you get the sense that, because your front and rear sights are moving relative to each other as you move, does it feel like if you pull the trigger when they're offset, the bullets go that way?
They feel like they're going in the direction that the muzzle is, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, that's a much better way of putting it.
Rather than like the center of my screen.
Yeah.
Where the sights would align if I was still, yeah. you sort of had to be aware where your gun was moving.
I really do enjoy that as a sort of subtle sort of meta mechanic or whatever you would want to call it, because you can't, with very few games lets you tilt and swivel and control the weapon like you were in VR. So a good compromise is, if you want an accurate shot, you only pull the trigger when you've got the proper sight picture. You're relying on your virtual body to align those sights, but you can be assured that you're accurate or not. Like, if you're missing, it's you. If you've got a good sight picture.
Yeah, I really felt if you're shooting while moving, it's because you've been caught short. It's a desperate move.
Yeah.
You really should be standing still and taking considered fire. That sound of the cases hitting the ground is always so satisfying when firing a suppressed weapon in a game. Oh, there's me shooting the statue again.
Yeah, I saw that. Especially from the other way around. I think it's less obvious.
Yeah, it caught me off a few times.
Something, 2 world wars. Wow, that's some fast shooting, Tex.
And you'll notice I hit nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would want to double check the period manuals for I'm sure it was a two-handed grip by the 80s. In the US Army. I don't know if it was meant to be a teacup or something closer to what we do now. I genuinely don't know whether that's correct or not. There's quite an angled wrist going on there, though. So maybe, yeah, I think that's trying to replicate more of a Weaver stance. I'd have to do the research on that. These guys probably have. I think it's just the field of view that makes the pistol seem a bit small. I think it's the right size for the hands of the character. So I think that's just the fact that you've got field of view, you've got it held out in front of you, ends up looking a bit small.
Well, I thought, I don't know what you think, but when you inspect the magazine to check your ammo, the round looks really big. And I think that's because they're playing with the field of view, that you are bringing it closer to your face.
Sounds good. Locking open as it should, as no surprise. And yeah, still the standard service pistol. We are approaching the XM9 trials. Well, I guess they'll be underway by 83. They finish in 85, and the M9 is the Beretta, of course, the 92 FS. And then there's a tail of time, several years, at least till the Gulf, I think, where there are still plenty of 1911s around. There are still Berettas around now, as far as I know, even though the M17 M18 are the standard service pistol. The same has happened again. So they adopt the M17. We've still got the old M9s around. There's always a lag, whether it's a rifle or a pistol. You don't overnight withdraw them all and get issued the latest thing. It might be years, depending on which unit you're in and what state the old weapons are in. I think for the Brits, it was a fairly quick changeover from the Browning L9 to the Glock, because the old Brownings were absolutely worn out.
As far as I could tell, the hammer does move, but
I don't
think it falls forward enough to strike the firing pin.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually, weirdly enough. That's a good catch. It's hard to tell, though, isn't it? Like, a real hammer falls so fast, you don't really perceive it. So...
I couldn't tell in game. I'm going frame by frame on my editing software.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's the levels I've had to go to even be able to detect it.
You do get the sense of how terrible those old 1911 sights are. I actually wonder if those look like it could be more 1911 not A1 sights. No, I think they are A1 sights. It's just that they seem so far away and tiny that they look a bit... But they're rubbish compared to M9 sights, for example. Interesting. Why do we have a swollen tip on the barrel? Am I losing my mind? Do I need to run to the Makarov drawer?
I don't know if it's present in the game, but yeah, in that view. Oh no, it is. Yeah, there's a swollen tip.
You've got a swollen tip.
That's both of us that have said that now.
Yeah, I've said it twice. So, in for a penny, in for a pound. Yeah, I will stop you there, because you're not doing speed reloads with that magazine. You've got to get in, push the heel release and pull the mag out. You're going to do that here or down here. You're not going to keep it in the aim. You would need magic kind of hands to do that. But if they did that in the game, you'd be at a huge disadvantage relative to the enemy with their 1911s. But that would be realistic. I don't think that your classic officer's Makarov holster has a spare mag pouch built into it, but you're not really expected to ever have to change magazines, I don't think. Hence, you'd rather have a catch that holds the magazine in and you don't drop it. That's kind of the theory of the so-called European heel release, even though it's kind of an American thing first, and lots of European pistols didn't have it. But yeah, I'm not convinced by the barrel on this.
Is the barrel... Have they potentially modelled it backwards?
Interesting thought.
It is wider towards the rear.
Yes. Now, the view through the ejection port looks right to me. Yeah, I'm not going mad. The barrel is plain diameter. There's no swelling, and I'm not sure why you would do that. It looks for all the world like a Luger barrel, which does have that kind of reinforced muzzle ring on which the front sight is mounted. In this case, it doesn't really make much sense. I think it's just a little bit of a mistake. Yeah, I don't know, maybe they were looking at a threaded barrel and accidentally copied that and didn't put threads on it. I don't know. The only reason you do that design-wise is to make a lighter barrel with a supporting diameter at the front for the slide. But it's a blowback pistol, so the barrel doesn't move anyway. You don't need that support. Outside view looks fine. I do slightly query the slide movement on these pistols, because we want to see the slide move, don't we, in games? I think that's the reason for it. But the slide, it's not just the hand, the slide is quicker than the eye. So you're not really aware of the movement of a slide when you're directly behind it. Like if you're watching someone shoot from the side, every now and again your eye will detect that it is, definitely moving and isn't just a blur. I think sometimes referring to video footage can be misleading as reference, because the frame rate of a camera is a lot less than your eye. So it will pick up muzzle flashes differently, it will pick up slide movement differently.
Not every soldier would be issued a sidearm in the game. If you've got a 1911 or a Makarov, you're either playing as an officer or it's the sidearm for the marksman class.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, depending on period, your typical soldier is not being issued a sidearm. It's too costly and they don't have a need for it. That is something for vehicle crews, officers, certain specialist troops, I guess, might have both. You certainly hear and read of GIs and Marines in the Second World War carrying the sidearm in the Pacific, as well as a rifle or a carbine. Typically, you're going to have one or the other. Like early machine gun crews, their only defense weapon is a pistol, and then they generally get issued rifles because pistols aren't really good enough. Or submachine guns, of course. And the same goes for your squad level NCOs. They might start out, or officers for that matter, they might start out with a pistol, but the reality of combat means they need to, or certainly the NCOs end up with a submachine gun. Did you feel undergunned with your pistol?
I did. The length of time it took me to record the footage for every other weapon was a lot shorter.
I mean, that's some serious recoil control there on both the pistols when you're tapping that trigger rapidly. I don't think there are many Cold War era officers who've put in enough range time to keep that to keep that muzzle down with that kind of rapid fire. Now this is a fun AR-15 variant. Colt Model 653. I thought we had one, but I'm afraid I have to disappoint you that we don't. We have an SP1 carbine with the same barrel length, but I felt like I would let you down if I'd brought that out. And a 723, which is like an M16 A2 range equivalent of the 653. The 653 for me immediately evokes Vietnam War movies where they couldn't get XM177s.
This is another weapon for the Special Forces class, not standard infantry.
And I believe they were acquired, among other carbine variants, for some Special Operations Forces units. So it would have been correct to use XM177E2s with the moderator replaced with a birdcage flash suppressor, because they realised that the moderator was basically worthless and you may as well make the weapon shorter and just deal with a little bit more, tiny bit more noise. I mean, the recoil difference is minimal. The main contribution of the moderator would have been a big old weight hanging off the muzzle, helping to keep the muzzle down a little bit. But yeah, so that would have been perhaps my choice, is to go for legacy XM177s, because they bought quite a few for Vietnam, oddly enough, and they were still in widespread use in 83. So it's very much an M4 precursor, whereas the 177 is more of a Mark 18 or a CQBR type precursor. Still cool. I like all of the Colt carbines, the AR carbines. Do you feel much difference between this and the M16?
It was slightly harder to control, but provided a bit more stopping power than the MP5 that was also on the class. So if I wasn't trying to flank and be a little sneaky, I would take this instead. But would you expect to see much difference in terms of controllability, rate of fire between these weapons, between this and an M16 A1?
I have a bit of experience with full auto ARs, but not one of this configuration. So I wouldn't like to say, except that I wouldn't anticipate there be much difference. Like, it's a lighter weapon with, you know, slightly different leverage going on, I guess, in terms of recoil forces. But yeah, probably, I don't know. Probably not much. With a bit of experience, I dare say there isn't much to choose between them.
Well, weight is a consideration as well when you're equipping your player.
Yeah.
It
That's
does
good.
dictate the amount of equipment you can take. So this
Very
could
good.
just be a lighter option that's very similar.
No, I love that. Love the idea that you have a maximum weight, like a soldier burden, as they like to call it, where you can take more firepower, but you'll be missing out on other stuff. That's really good. I mean, realistically, you're going to use a carbine of this barrel length. You're probably going to use semi-auto in the first instance anyway, and there's going to be nothing really to choose between there. Out to, I mean, I guess with the pencil barrel, the 6.53 is perhaps less accurate than an M16. Compared to an M4 versus an M16, where apparently the accuracy out to its effective range isn't much different. Either way, there's going to be less to choose between these two than the two AKs, where that's dropping your barrel length way down. Couldn't have a Cold War game without an SVD. That's good. Bolt locks open. That's good. Sight looks good. Reticle is correct.
And not only the reticle, but they've added a sort of visual effect on the glass, the actual glass of the scope, and it made it more difficult to use.
Interesting.
I'm sort of glad, because it's labelled as like a realistic scope in the settings. But I'm sort of glad there was that effect that it wasn't completely clear, because it felt like it balanced the marksman rifles a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know about that optical effect. I mean, there's the ones we have that are 50 plus years old. Yeah, you can tell you're looking through glass and it's maybe not optically perfectly clear. I don't know if like a film grain effect is in any way realistic though. Like, they've made the sight wrong if it looks that grainy. But as a gameplay concession, fair enough.
Also gives me something to blame on me missing some of my shots. So
I will also say with the rubber eye cup thing, it's nice to see it in your field of view, but you wouldn't see it in your field of view. It's pressed up against your orbit. All you see is black and the reticle. So those games where you scope in and the whole screen goes black is actually more realistic than if you're seeing anything of the scope itself.
assuming they're using a SVD with a PSO and an eye cup.
I mean, any scope, realistically, yeah, you're going to be somewhat, like, there's something around your eyeball, but because your focus is on the ocular lens, it's still, the experience is still going to be black with the reticle, the scope view, for the most part. But it's just more obvious here because you have that huge rubber flange around your scope. But that's the whole point. You don't need to worry about your eye relief. Oh, where's my eye relief? And then you get shot. You just smack your eye into the rubber cup, and it's bang on. I mean, don't smack into it, but you get my point. It's kind of an idiot-proof approach to a scope. What it isn't is like the hood on a box brownie camera that's supposed to kind of block out the terrain around. I wonder if you're getting a weight advantage in this game then, because the SVD is really a very lightweight weapon for its effective range. So I wonder if you, by taking that relative to a Western sniper rifle, you get to carry more stuff. So in theory, you're at an advantage as the Warsaw Pact. The disadvantage, perhaps, would be if you have to go kicking indoors with this thing, because it's about 30 feet long.
Well, interestingly, I feel like when I was playing marksman in buildings, and even using other rifles actually, and this is something that is present in other games, but I was very aware of it here, is my barrel was sticking out the window.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
and I was consciously taking steps away from windows.
We do have some exaggerated red mist, but you need a visual indicator of hits.
Yeah, the kill feed won't always tell you if you've killed someone. Sometimes it'll pop up, I think, if it's like visually obviously a kill, like a headshot, or if you take someone down and it goes through their spine, they immediately drop. So they've modelled some internal organs as well.
Holy
so
crap.
Upper chest, spine, head, they're all one-shot kills.
Wow, that's fascinating. And not something I would have picked up on necessarily. Yeah, I mean that's the first time we obviously locational damage and gore effects and stuff we've seen in games, but not that kind of tactically relevant realism of Not just headshots, but other vital stuff mattering. That's really interesting. I mean, the next level on from that would be something like hitting a limb bone or a pelvis or something, and that, because that's going to make you drop as well. Gets a bit grim when you get too far into it, but that's good. We happen to have one of these, actually, for an unrelated game review. There's that label. Now, if there are any marking differences on this one, it's because it's a British issue one. I think there are. This is just essentially missing its US. There are the British markings. Rocket 66mm, high explosive anti-tank L1 A1, and some other stuff on that. Now, assume you only get the one of these.
You do.
Yep.
And you have to be conscious of where you're shooting. Like here, I'm demonstrating that you might want to go for a track so that other more heavy ordnance can actually do the job of finishing the tank off. Or you just get them bogged down.
Yeah, makes sense. Rear sight looks different. I don't know if that's because it's a different generation or somehow the Brits have a different... I think we have at least one M72 I'll have to double check on, but the rear sight looks a bit different to what you're seeing there on this one. Or the aperture is significantly higher up. Yeah, so this sight has 3 apertures on this. 2 fine aiming ones marked for different temperatures, and then a large one on the top, presumably for close range. Something I need to dig into, actually.
It was very cool to lay into tanks with various anti-tank weapons and see the tank crew just scurry away because they know they've suddenly got no chance of keeping the tank alive.
That's how these are actually used. And you got that one shot to make a difference against something that could potentially kill your whole squad.
I like that when you take down an enemy, their weapons are physical objects in the world, which meant that Special Forces guy that I took out kindly donated his law and allowed me to attack the tank.
Yeah, that's good. I will say, when they're dropped, they tend to just stay in the vertical plane and fall out of space. Would be nice to see them kind of organically tumble to the ground or drop to the ground rather than just almost like they're spawned in as an object and they're dropping like this. But yeah, you see the firing fingers on the firing button on top of the weapon.
I don't know if that was a Russian UAZ or something, but it's not running anymore.
I quite like the discard animation as well. Like, it doesn't just kind of drop down out of sight. It's like, throw that away. Don't need that anymore. I'm not going to get any money for recycling that. Ironically, you probably would for selling it to collectors. But anyway.
Let's see if you can tell what gameplay feature I accidentally discovered in this clip.
Blackwatch 07, this is Delta 6. Requesting fire mission at Grid Echo.
Oh, backblast.
Yeah, I cut his radio conversation short. And that was one of the development team as well.
Oh, that's super. Well, that's their own fault then, isn't it? If they didn't want to die from your backblast, they shouldn't have programmed it into the game.
I could only tell because I could hear him calling in artillery and he just went quiet.
He's just
I was like, oh no, I understand what's happened now.
That's so funny. Did he reply?
Yeah, he was just like, no worries.
Oh.
Yeah, you would say that. You would be polite in that.
Biting his knuckles.
Yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
I like the extendy animation. That's good. I hesitate to attempt it on ours, but it does still retract.
Would you say it's fair to call the RPG-18 the Soviets' law?
Yeah, this came first, so... Right, the labels are getting in the way, but this gives you an idea. So you pull a pin's still attached on this one. Cap drops, you extend, rear sight pops up, adjusts, test and adjust as it were, and then fire.
It felt like the RPG-18 had basically the same effect on target, but because of the sights, it was much harder to use.
Interesting.
They're much more basic.
This is stressful just to watch.
I want to say like 7 times out of 10, me shooting a tank was replied to with heavy machine gun fire from the sponson.
I mean, you don't want to be hitting that in the frontal armor, do you, really?
No, that is something you need to consider. Heavier armor in the front,
Yeah.
engine on the back, taken out, tracks.
Business in front, party in the back.
Yeah, business in the front, slightly less business in the back.
Tanks are kind of all business, aren't they, really?
Yeah, but it would take a good few hits
Ooh.
from either recoilless weapons or RPGs to disable and fully take out a tank.
It's a fun explosion. Are we getting any turret tosses?
None that I saw, but that might be because I knew every time I hit a tank with an RPG, it would open up on me, so I was ducking back behind cover as soon as that munition was out of the tube. So I'm guessing the RPG 18 works basically the same way as the M27 LAW, the push button, extended, single use.
I mean, I don't want to be so reductive as to call it a copy, but it's a copy. Like, functionally speaking. It's not rivet for rivet or anything, but it's the same. At the very least, it's...
It glanced at the homework.
Yeah. And why wouldn't you? It's an incredibly good weapon. Like, it's in service for half a century counting, as far as I know, depending where you are in the world. It's lightweight, it's compact, tremendous firepower. It's like a World War II GI would be over the moon to have that. When you think of, like, you need an actual crew of 2 for it with a bazooka, or one guy with one of these. Amazing development, Rick, when you think about it.
Well, those were just a few of the weapons of 83.
Yes.
Some of the main ones, at least.
I was excited for it when it was originally announced. I'm still excited for it. And I like what I'm seeing. And as much as I'm a single-player bod in large part, I'm definitely up for some of this.
We'll squad up. We'll
Yes.
have to get some games in.
Absolutely. Both of our speed, I think. Well, I say that. Not necessarily in terms of skill, but in terms of vibe and weapons.
Thank you all for watching, and thank you to 83 for sponsoring this episode. Remember to click the links in the description and pinned comment below to hop into the action of a Cold War gone hot and check out 83 for yourself. I also want to give a massive shout out to all of our supporters over on the Patreon for allowing us to make cool content like this. Down below you'll also find links to support Jonathan and the Royal Armouries, so make sure you show those folks some love as well. But until next episode, thank you once more for watching, and I will see you next time.